Okay, this is a full foil all the way from start to finish, around the hairline, all of those things. In the front, I'm going to be using a Facet pattern, which is like the standard way I would say that we foil, and that can even be used for a partial foil. Okay, so after my first foil on her, because she's going to be pretty blonde, I'm going to go ahead and slice and grab a small section, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe even less. It's hard to tell in this, but I think it's a little bit less. And then on my section, I'm going to slice off of it and keep that pretty thin, so I don't have to weave it because I'm going to keep it a little bit more thin, but you can weave it if you feel like again, this girl's hair is going to be really blonde, but on top of that, her natural color is, it's hard to tell in this, but in real life, it's like a 7. So with that being said, it's not going to be super contrasty, so I don't have to be as careful with her as far as slicing, but when I am slicing, I'm still doing them very thin. Okay, about the same amount in between, I'm going to go ahead and do a small section and then slice off of that again. On her hair, she has tons of old blonde, so I'm only pulling down on the pieces that I feel like are either dark, or if they're brassy, you can always do like the lowest developer, like 5 volume, and do a separate mix and pull down on those. Okay, so now I'm going to make a section. It looks like it's a little to the left, but in real life, it is pretty much straight on in the back of her hair. So I am going to go straight up horizontal sections and just do a few to kind of connect these foils to both sides. You can do this part first if you prefer that, or sometimes if they have a really skinny hairline at the bottom, you don't even need this connector piece. But on her, I felt like to make sure I got it, all covered, that's what I needed. And also on those horizontal pieces, I weaved both of them just because anytime you're doing a horizontal section on the head, you want to be really careful of not making it look stripy. So if I did do a slice, I would have done it really thin as well. Okay, so mirroring the other side, I did 2 foils. The first weave, the second a very thin slice. Now I'm going to touch that middle bottom foil, so I'm connecting to that foil. I'm not too worried about the top of the head. I want to make sure I'm connecting to the bottom. So I'm going to do a thin slice and work my way over, and I'm connecting to those bottom foils. So once I'm done with this piece, I'll be touching the right side where I stopped. Okay, so I'm just working my way across the head. I am coming up at a diagonal, so not straight across. And again, I'm connecting to the foils that I've already done. So I don't want to leave a gap between right here where this foil is to my right side. I want to make sure this foil is touching it, so I'm not having a weird hole. Okay, so once my foil has hit the very right side, I'm going to start going up the other way. Again, working at a diagonal. This is the very first angle that I was at on the bottom. There's a million ways to foil the back of the head, by the way, and if you want to work up going one side to the other back and forth, that's totally fine too. But just to make sure I get every square inch of the back of her head, I really enjoy doing it this way. Okay, so this part, I really should have turned my angle the other way like we originally started, more so for the purpose of making it make sense, but I was just working through her head and not really thinking about how I was going to explain that. But the reason that I did not is because with this angle, I'm going to actually be able to work all the way up the rest of her head and not have to turn it again. And the reason I knew that is just because I looked at how much hair I had left and knew that my foil could fit across the width of it. So I'm still coming up at an angle, but wasn't necessarily the first angle that we started at. So as long as your foil is coming at an angle, you can turn that thing whichever way that you want to. It's going to still create a really nice blended look. It's not going to really create lines unless your actual slice is too thick or you don't come all the way up to the root. I will say if you get too diagonal, like you're almost vertical, that could also create more of a harsh line. Okay, so I am coming to the end of my section, and how I'm going to know to stop is when my foil meets the one on the bottom section underneath this. So if you can see, it's hitting the edge of that, so that tells me that I'm done. So I'm going to start my framing piece on the top. She is going to have sort of a money piece, but the rest of her hair is going to be pretty blonde. So it's not going to like stand out chunky, but at the same time, it's going to stand out a little bit more than the rest of it. So to make that happen, I'm going to weave off of my first section, and then I'm going to do the rest of this money piece back to back. So I'm going to take a slice. The difference between a section and a slice is how much hair you have in it. So to me, when I say slice, that means if I take a slice, that amount of hair could go in a foil if I wanted it to. But a section, you would not put a section of hair in a foil. You would either have to weave or you would have to slice off of that. So I am going to be taking slices, but just to make sure they're extra blended, I am going to weave off of them. And that means that there's not going to be a lot of hair not making it into the foil, but just enough so that it looks really blended, and it just makes it not so much of a line as her hair grows out. Even though someone with a money piece, I mean, you're going to have somewhat of a line, but it could be worse if you really pack them in there without weaving. Okay, so I think that was like number 3 on the foils. And I don't even remember how many I did on her, like maybe like 4 or 5. But I would say like a standard true money piece, I would do 3 to 5 foils. If you want to start feeling chunkier at the top, I would be somewhere between the, 6 to 8 foil range. And it also depends on the hairline. Like if they have a widow's peak, you could do more foils, but you're getting such a small amount of hair in the beginning, it doesn't really end up looking that thick. So you have to kind of think about that too. People struggle a lot with, after the money piece, how much to spread out the foils and just an all-over foil in general. So I will say the best way to know is by experience, but at the same time, like on her, I want her to have the tiniest bit of contrast while still being very blonde. And I'm doing about 1/4 of an inch in between her sections after the money piece and the hairline. So I guess put that into perspective. Like she's still going to have something in between on hers, and it's only 1/4 of an inch. So if you basically want them to look platinum with almost nothing in between, then you literally are going to have almost nothing in between. But if you want them to have some of their natural coming through, you need to start at about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which side you start coming up on, but I'm going to just go up on the left side, and I'm starting again by just taking a little section, weaving off of that, and then my next foil, I'm going to go ahead and take a small section and slice off of it. So I felt comfortable to do that with her hair because, again, her natural color is so light, but also these pieces are still very small. And I said this in a video before, but when you're taking these slices or even weaves, you really don't want them to be so thick that you couldn't almost read something through it. So if you were to hold up a book or a newspaper or something like that, you would want to be able to at least see the words through it a little bit. Okay, so this part is so tricky for people, and it's when you start getting close to meeting the money piece section. The main key to this is, again, just like we did in the back, you are going to try to connect that foil to the money piece. So don't worry about connecting it to the back foils, connect it to the front foils. Now on her, because I've done a full foil and she doesn't have that big of a head, really I can almost connect it to both. But if I had to choose one, it would be the money piece. So don't worry about leaving a gap in the back. We can fix that later. Okay, so let me just say this too. And I'm going to do another video on a partial foil. It'll be a smidge different than this facet. And the reason is, since I already have foils in the back, I am trying to close the gap. So if my foil can fit all the way across, I can shift my angle slightly to make that happen. And I'll go back into that in just a second. But I just wanted to say, as I'm working up the head, I am working till about 3/4 of the money piece section. So I had just hit 3/4 of the way on the very first section, and that's how I know to start the other side. And now I'm going to come up this side the exact same way that I did the last side. If I was doing a partial right now, the way my angle would change is I would make it not quite so diagonal up the head, but almost more horizontal coming towards the face. And the reason is, if I do that, I will open more room in the back so that I can make sure I fill all the holes. But in this case, we've already filled all of those spots. Okay, so on this first connector piece, I am just making sure I connect to that very money piece. And then on this next one, that will be my deciding factor on if I can fit a foil across the whole thing, which once I kind of look at it, I'm like, okay, I can definitely fit a foil right here. And so now my goal is to just work back until I meet 3/4 of the foil to my left. So the second section that I was just working up on the other side, I am working till 3/4 of that foil is covered. These little hairs that I'm weaving out on the bottom are just hairs that are naturally dark for her. So I'm just kind of weaving them out and then pulling down where I need to. You always want to do that as opposed to pulling down over all of the blonde, the biggest thing is just to make sure you don't have any breakage. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is change my camera angle. So there's nothing that's going to change on my sectioning. I'm still working up the same side, but now you can see it from a new angle. And as I'm working back, you'll realize as I hit 3/4 of this last section, I'm going to be done. So there's not going to be anything else to fill. And now maybe it makes a little bit more sense why I made sure both of those sides could connect, because now that I'm done, this is 3 sections in the front and every crevice is filled. So I don't have to worry about any holes or anything like that. I will say when I do a full foil, depending on the head shape, depending on the width of the head and all those different things, my foil placement and pattern can change just a tiny bit. But once you get just the overall feel of it, it's really simple to change those things as you're working through the hair. And this is the foil altogether. So you see there's not like any huge sections that are left out. It's all kind of meeting each other. And this is it right from the front. So that money piece, and then that first section and the second section. And this is the finished look. Again, it is just a regular highlight. There's no shadowing or teasing, but I feel like it's still pretty blended and bright.